first bowl.
Tremendous catch, tumbling forward.
And he's bowled.
From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell in London, and I've been preparing for the annual Cricket Writers' Lunch, which is next week. It's when all of our members in the cricket media get together and celebrate the end of the season, and we dish out awards to deserving players and journalists as well. In fact, one of our co-presenters this week is shortlisted for a book award. I wonder which one it is.
Well, Alison, you might bring that up, but I could not possibly comment. Geoff Lemon here. I'm in Melbourne at the ABC's South Bank studios, having just got back from a very long tour of the UK for the World Cup and the Ashes, 4 months end to end, and now I'm back home. But I'm still talking to you, Ellie.
It's good to know. It's good to know, Geoff. You're far too modest, by the way.
And I'm Sunil Gupta for All India Radio New Delhi. And unfortunately, no book awards, no shortlisting yet. And that's going to be the operative word. So you can all sort of wait and see what happens next. But what I can tell you is that I've been, not busy, but I've been involved in doing a web series that you can find on Prime Video. So look out for it. It's called A Family Man. It's got pretty decent reviews.
Well, let's pick up on the biggest talking point of the week, certainly from my part of the world, which is the announcement of England's Test and T20 squads for their upcoming tour of New Zealand. And there are a bunch of new names in there, but perhaps the biggest headline was the decision to leave Johnny Bairstow out of the Test squad. Now, Jos Buttler will pick up with the gloves as keeper, and he's a less superior keeper in Tests. I think that much is acknowledged. But Bairstow has had a lean year with the bat. Well, leaner by his own previous standards. He's averaged only 20.25 for 2019. So it seems as if wicket-keeping is less of a priority than run-scoring, which I'm not sure should be completely the case in Test cricket. I just wondered how you guys have read this one. I mean, Bairstow was certainly surprised to have been left out. Were you surprised, Geoff, when you saw the news?
I was not surprised that he wasn't in the squad, but I was surprised that he was given a Test contract, because the contract list came out only a few days beforehand, and there were some odd decisions in there. Joe Denley got a white ball contract but not a Test contract, when he seems to have established himself in the Test team but not the white ball sides. And then there were things like Liam Plunkett missing out on a white ball contract despite being probably England's best bowler in the World Cup final. Bairstow got all three, even though you thought that he was on the verge of getting the chop from the Test team, and then as it turns out he was.
So now what about the balance between run scoring versus expertise with the gloves?
Yeah, we're facing the same sort of dilemma here in India with Rishabh Pant. The whole point is that everybody says he's got oodles of talent and talent is oozing out of him and all that sort of thing. But I personally believe he's not living up to the hype that is surrounding him. But, well, I think that a keeper should be able to bat, but especially in Test matches, I think it's the keeping that is absolutely predominantly important, because you can miss a catch or a stumping in a 50-over game or a T20. It's not going to hurt you that much, but in a Test match, boy, it can lose you the game.
Well, those England squads have also included some new faces. A couple of young batsmen in Dominic Sibley and Zach Crawley, so keep an eye out for those names. There's Lancashire leg spinner Matthew Parkinson and this man.
Pooran on strike as Mahmood comes into bowl two, and he's got his middle stump rocked back. Pooran looking to heave it down the ground.
Here is Mahmood, every chance of pick. Yeah, he's done it! Bowls in first ball. What a display of full-pitched fast bowling from Saqib Mahmood. He picks up his 5th wicket.
Yes, Saqib Mahmood. He's a 22-year-old fast bowler from Lancashire and has been named in both the England Test and T20 squads. He's a very exciting young bowler. He's clocked up speeds of more than 145 kilometres an hour. He's definitely seen as a prospect for the next Ashes in 2021-22. And I tell you what, if they have both him and Jofra Archer, well, it really will be like meeting fire with fire when it comes to taking on Pat Cummins and Mitchell Starc and friends. Now, I spoke to Mahmood earlier on this week and asked him where he was when he found out the news had been picked.
So I'm at Leicester this week, and I've been rested this week just in the case of, if I did get called up at all. So it was day one at the Leicester County ground, and, all morning, I knew the squad was being announced at 2, so all morning I'm literally just staring at my phone in case it rings. Every time I sort of go onto the field to warm up, I come back, first thing I do is have a look at my phone. And it got to around 1:30 or so, and I still hadn't got the call. And I thought half an hour before, surely if there's ever time to get a call, it's now. But I ended up getting the call at 20 to 2, just as I was thinking, yeah, this isn't coming. So yeah, I got the call at about 22 off Ed Smith. Yeah, and it was a great feeling.
Did you remember the actual conversation? I know you said that you've said previously that you can't remember what you said. You're going to have to ask someone. Have you been able to find out what you said?
No, so start with just told me that I was on both squads, and as he told me I was on the Test and the T20 squad, it's such a weird feeling. Like my mind just went blank. Like he kept talking. I probably shouldn't say this, but he kept talking, but I wasn't taking anything in. It was very weird. And then at the end, he asked me if I had any questions. I didn't want to say to him, mate, I literally haven't heard a thing you've said. I was just like, I'm trying to take it all in. But yeah, all I heard was I was on both the squads, and that was it really.
Yeah, you need to tell him you pay much better attention in team meetings.
Yeah.
Learning to bowl fast. I want to talk to you about that. England have obviously got Jasprit Archer and his pace in the squad at the moment. Take me back to the beginning. I mean, who are your heroes, role models, if you like? Was there anyone that you loved in terms of fast bowling?
So when I first obviously just started watching the game, the two players I loved to watch were Brett Lee and Shoaib Akhtar, just because they were the two quickest bowlers in the world at the time, and I'm young. I was young, very young at the time, so it was hard to relate back to it. But there was just something about the fast bowlers which I'd always watch. Like I'd watch them bowl, and then the first thing I'd do is have a look at the speed at the bottom of the screen. So those two were the guys I looked up to first up. And then 2005, Simon Jones. I really like watching Simon Jones, and his celebration when he taps his head and when he got fifer. I remember when I got my first fifer, I did held my hand up with a big 5 on it. And Flintoff, I loved what Flintoff was about. So in my early years, those were guys I loved to watch.
So Shoaib Akhtar is one of your bowling heroes. Do you feel that you have a sort of role to play in terms of being a role model for increasing opportunities and I say being a role model for other kids from South Asian communities to get involved in cricket, or is that quite a big responsibility to feel that you need to bear?
No, I hope I can, and it's not something I need to be conscious about a great deal. I think I've done a bit of work with the ECB and stuff on the South Asian community and the numbers of sort of grassroots cricket and how many actually progress now. If I can play a role as a role model as a fast bowlers where they can see that I've actually gone on and played. Moeen Ali does a great job, but if me being able to be a fast bowler and playing for England with my background sort of gives inspiration to other guys who are wanting to bowl fast and want to play for England, then yeah, it's a good feeling, I guess.
Well, that is Saqib Mahmood. And first things first, Sunil and Geoff, he sounds like a very mature young man, I thought.
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, I was very impressed by the way that he spoke. He's just a young man of 22, and we'll be talking about another young man of 22 later on. You have a good head on your shoulders, I think you have that much more of a chance to succeed in the big time.
And nice that he was able to give you some straight answers in terms of what he was thinking when he was talking to Ed Smith. I'm sure they'll train that out of him soon enough, though, if he hangs around the England setup.
Oh, gosh, you hope not. But let's focus on Mahmood's skill as a fast bowler, though, because his average this season actually has been fairly modest. 21 wickets in 9 matches. And there are lots of English bowlers who haven't been selected, who have better records than that. You can think of Chris Rushworth at Durham or Jamie Porter at Essex. They seem to take bucket loads of wickets year after year, but Mahmood has pace, quite genuine pace. Is that going to serve England well, do you think, going down this route, Sunil?
Well, yes, pace is good. I think pace is important. We all recognise bowling at 95 miles an hour or 100 miles an hour. It has its own sort of frisson. It adds its own dimension. But I think pace by itself, especially on the slower wickets when you go to other parts of the world, is not good enough. You need to develop another bag of tricks. A swing, seam, movement, something, because and how long can you bowl at that level? I mean, it's impossible to bowl every delivery at 95 miles an hour. So if you can't do that and your pace flags after 3 or 4 overs, then that's just not good enough as well. And secondly, bowling in different conditions. Bowling in England, where it's cooler, is one thing. Coming and bowling in the subcontinent, where it's not, is quite something else. So I think he would need to develop more strings to his bow if he is to succeed in other parts of the world.
From the BBC World Service, this is Stumped on All India Radio.
Now, on to India now, because they begin their heavyweight test series against South Africa next week. India will be favourites on home soil, but they've been dealt a blow by the loss of their number one fast bowler, Jasprit Bumrah. He's got a stress fracture in his lower back, and he's been replaced by Umesh Yadav in the squad. So, Sunil, how damaging is it, first of all, to lose Bumrah?
Oh, it's a huge setback. I mean, I don't know whether you saw him bowling in the Windies, but he was sensational, absolutely lethal. But I was wondering actually when this was going to happen, because, you know, the awkward and unusual action that he's got, I mean, he doesn't really have a run-up, no rhythm. So the amount of stress, to use the pun, on his back and spine must be absolutely enormous. I was talking about all the Australian bowlers as well who've been through this, and it's taken Pat Cummins and all these guys how many years to come back. And I think the problem really is when to bring him back, and it cannot be too early. So even though they say it's a minor stress fracture, I think it's going to be some time before he can come back and play. And then it's always there, something, you know, like a gremlin in the back of your mind. You know, it's a stress fracture in the back. I can't sort of go there and do what I was doing before. And I dare say you might find a slightly different Jasprit Bumrah as and when he comes back into the test team. But I think you'll have to manage him. I think you've got to take away his white ball cricket for some time, because he is absolutely essential in the red ball game, especially abroad. So it's just a question of saying, you know, how do we manage our fast bowling resources? I think Australia did a phenomenal job in the Ashes in England. I mean, you had, you know, a whole battery of 4 or 5 of them who all of them didn't play, despite the fact that, you know, they performed really well as a team. I think India needs to be able to develop that. But more importantly, I think you've got to be able to say, why does this happen to fast bowlers, and how can we prevent this happening? Because it's happened to almost every fast bowler across the globe, and especially in recent times. So workloads, diet, conditioning, all these things I think play an important role. But to sum up, yes, he's going to be a big loss, because even on the placid pitches in India, he's a handful.
On Stumped some while ago, we spoke about the research that had been done into front foot no ball versus back foot no ball law and the impact that has had on injuries to fast bowlers. It's an interesting one to think about. But Geoff, how does the absence of Bumrah tip the scales, if you like? Because you've got India very strong at home, India without Bumrah at home. Does this give South Africa a little more hope?
Well, maybe a little bit. As Sunil said, the way that he bowled in the West Indies was literally unplayable much of the time. So, of course, if you take a player of that quality out, that helps a bit. But India just have so much quality across departments. You know, you look at the batting strength they've got through the order. They're bringing Rohit Sharma in to have a proper crack at opening the batting and to see if that works. And then the spin contingent they've got with Kuldeep and Jadeja and Ravi Ashwin, you know, different kinds of spinners to suit all conditions. I suppose the main thing that Bumrah's absence does is raise the question of what sort of surfaces they will have, because if Bumrah were in the side, India might be tempted to go a more pace-heavy option. You know, they've got those backup bowlers like Ishant Sharma, who's been playing so well in the last couple of years, Mohammad Shami, and then Umesh Yadav, who's come in for Bumrah. Would they be tempted, and Sunil might be able to throw some light on that, to go for more of a pace pitch in India and to back their fast bowlers, or would they be more likely to bring those 3 spinners into the 11 at once and go for turning wickets like in Pune, where they've had real spinning wickets before?
Well, I think pitchers in India have moved on from the dust bowls that we used to have about maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago. I think India recognizes that we have a very good pace attack now. I mean, Ishant, I thought, has been absolutely sensational in the past couple of years. I think Mohammad Shami, Umesh as well. I remember last year against the Windies here in India, the second fast bowler, Shardul Thakur, who was making his debut, he only bowled 2.5 overs and then he went off, never to come back again. So he was the lone pace bowler, and he picked up 10 wickets in that match. So I think that, no, I don't think they'll be tempted to change the nature of the pitches. In any case, there's not that kind of time as well now, so starting next week. And I think India want to prove that they're good without having doctored pitches or pitches that only suit them. I think that is definitely a part of Shastri and Kohli's plans, to make them all-weather cricketers, to be able to play on all surfaces. And this will make it a more evenly contested series. Because let's not forget, I mean, South Africa with Rabada, and Ngidi and Pretorius and all these guys, they have a pretty decent pace attack as well. I think spin is going to be the factor, because I don't think they have that kind of spin attack, but I think it will certainly make the series more interesting.
I just want to note an amusing tale from the final T20 between the teams. So after the game, which South Africa won to level the series, Virat Kohli revealed that a misunderstanding in the Indian dressing room led to a shake-up in the batting order. Have a listen.
We had it planned according to phases, so I think after 10 overs is what we decided Rishabh would walk in. Before that, Shreyas had to walk in. But I think both of them got confused and didn't realize who has to walk in at what stage of the game. So, yeah, that was a miscommunication there.
Oh, I don't know, best laid plans and all that. I mean, this was Rishabh Pant walking out to bat at number 4 when it should have been Shreyas Iyer, according to the pre-match plan. And in the event, Pant made 19 before skying a catch to long off, and Iyer only made 5. Sunil, do India complicate things a little bit here, or you've got to always have a bit of flexibility in your batting order in one day?
Well, don't quote me, but yes, and yes, absolutely a huge mishmash. I mean, come on, this is a T20 game. Just 120 deliveries. You're making all these plans. You've got to go with the flow. And I think, miscommunication, you're playing for the national team. This is not, the corners, second 11 playing, the Maidan. It's you're playing for your country. So I think that it was quite ridiculous, really, to have that type of mix-up. And in any case, it didn't really make any difference, as you said. I mean, Rishabh Pant was out in his usual manner, trying to go for a slog over mid-wicket and slicing the ball somewhere. And poor Shreyas Iyer, I think that I must have got to him by that point of time. But I think, really, you're absolutely right. I think in a T20, we tend to overcomplicate things, and it's all caused, I think, really by this entire brouhaha about Rishabh Pant. He's got oodles of talent, he's oozing talent, we've got to give him a chance, make him bat at number 5 instead of number 4 or number 6. To my mind, you have a cricketing brain, or you should by this time. He's 22 now, he's been around, you should know how to play according to the situation. And if you don't, you can bat him at number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It doesn't matter, he's going to do the same thing. So somewhere along the line, you've got to start thinking for yourself. You can't just be coached and you're spoon-fed and said, well, now go and do this. You've got to know what you've got to be able to do at that level. So, yeah, I mean, overcomplicate, I think, is an understatement.
I love the idea of two batsmen both standing up at the same time in the dugout to go into bat. Then, is it me? Is it you? Is it me? Go on, after you.
Really.
Well, that's all we've got time for on Stumped this week on All India Radio. You can keep in touch with everything cricket related on our Twitter feed at BBCWS Sports and use the hashtag BBC Stumped. My thanks to Sunil Gupta and Geoff Lemon, and to you for listening. Bye-bye.
Stumped is a BBC sport production for the BBC World Service in association with the Australian Broadcasting Corporation and All India Radio.